It's the Score North Twin Show.
All right, Score North extra innings. Declan Goff here from Target Field. AJ Fredrickson back on the home front. Twins take 3 of 4 from the Kansas City Royals today. Big series win for the Twins age. They've now won 7 of their last 10 games. They had to rally in this one. They were down 4-0 to start, but then they were able to kind of rally back with a big bottom of the 6th inning. Carlos Correa delivers a bases-clearing RBI triple that kind of puts this thing back into a cruise control for the Twins. So Twins rally for another big win. They've won 7 of 10, and now they're hitting the road for a big road trip against Houston and New York.
Yeah, and hey, great way to set off course here before you leave town. Big series win. It's not the team at the top. It's not Cleveland, but we talked about this. I want to say it was just yesterday. Like, they're the team in front of you, and as much as maybe the Royals, like, they had their dynasty when they were a powerhouse for that time span, and then it's kind of they've receded back, and now but they have Salvador Perez, they have Bobby Witt Jr., they have these guys that they're winning more ball games now than they are losing, and they're ahead of you in the standings. But this is a nice way to chip away at that, and then you can set your sights at the big dogs, which still is weird to say at this point of the year is Cleveland. They're still up there, they're still doing their thing. Great job by the Twins. The bats came alive, the pitching was there when they needed it. A little bit of scare maybe for the Twins fans in attendance and you later here in the game today, but at the same time they got the job done. That's really all that matters. Now you head down to Houston for a pretty important series before maybe an even more important series where you can try to get back at the team that smacked you around on your home ballpark here with the Yankees just about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, Johan Duran keeps I guess you can say walk the plank. That's what I tweeted out today. A little bit of more of a PFP problem, pitchers fielding practice. Need to work on some PFP there. He had a bit of an errant throw. They technically gave the error to Carlos Santana, but a better throw in general just beats him. And he's had I think 4 straight appearances with at least the opposing team's runner getting to third base. So he has walked the plank, but then he's also had death by BABIP batting average on balls in play, where it's just these numbers that are 20 feet. I mean, I should probably honestly go back, look at the exit velocities on some of the ground balls and hits he's given up, because I would bet more than half of them haven't left the infield, and probably a handful of them have also not even gotten farther than the pitching mound. And Duran, who I believe Pete Mackey called, is more of a marathon runner, not a sprinter. So he's built for distance than he is for straight line speed, which is funny considering, he has a rocket of an arm that can launch a baseball 100 miles an hour. But yeah, Duran walks the plank a little bit. But you know what? I will say this. Let's go to the offense here, because something that really plagued the team last year before Royce Lewis's arrival was obviously their struggles with runners, not just in scoring position, but also bases loaded. The Twins have had horrible time with bases loaded. They entered today with the second worst OPS in the entire Major League Baseball. OPS has bases loaded, just 4 hits all season with the bases loaded, which is honestly difficult to do.
Yeah.
Earlier in the game, before the big rally, they had the bases loaded with 1 out, and they had also their 8 and 9 hitters up. So, I mean, God bless Christian Vasquez. He's trying his hardest out there, but not the guy you want up with the bases loaded. So then they could redeem themselves, which was a very interesting spot that started this rally. So Kepler comes in as a pinch hitter for Kyle Farmer. He drives in the first run there after Ryan Jeffers, who also had a 2-home run day. He drives in the first run. And then Manny Margot eventually comes up. And instead of pinch hitting for Margot, because at this point it's righty on righty, Rocco leaves him in there, which was interesting because Kirilloff's on the bench, Larnach's on the bench, Julian's on the bench. He could have easily gone to the lefty. Now, that meant the Royals could have also possibly made a pitching change, so there was a chess move there to a degree. But he elects for Margot to face the righty on righty. Margot works the walk. It then puts the bases loaded again, and you're all kind of knocking on wood thinking, oh, my God, here we go again. But Carlos Correa is one of the most clutch hitters the last 10 years, steps up, delivers a bases-clearing triple, and then the Twins basically walk their way to a big win. But yeah, eventually those at-bats with bases loaded are going to go the Twins' way. And after just 4 hits all season, this one being the 5th for Carlos Correa with the bases-clearing triple, finally the Twins break through with men on.
I'd be curious to know how much of maybe a conversation with Carlos Correa behind Manny Margot factored into the decision to just let him go out there, take the AB, because as much as you want stuff to get extended and, maybe make some pop and some surprises happen with Margot in the box, I think you and I know that the real guy there, the real threat, is who's in the on-deck circle with Carlos Correa. So if, to your point of, they make the switch and all of a sudden the Royals, they can go to their bullpen, they can bring in a lefty or something like that. Maybe Carlos Correa is like, hey, Rocco, I know this guy, I can hit this guy, like something along those lines. Get Manny up there. Manny, just get to me. And what do you know? Big hit, big spot. And that's exactly what this team pays him to do. This is a guy that it's been a kind of high school drama of, I'm going to leave. No, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then, two medical teams are going to be like, actually, no, we don't want you. And then you come back and you get a big payday. And you're still, frankly, in like a contract year type situation where he's looking to impress the other team so he can eventually maybe capitalize with Minnesota more or go somewhere else and do the same thing. This is what he's paid to do. Carlos Correa steps up, big spot, and he's able to get a base clearing triple. And I would love to see the rest of this lineup take a little lesson from him on, when guys are on base, it's okay to hit the ball. That's not illegal. That's not against the rules. You're able to put the ball in play when you have runners in scoring position. That is just fine. That's actually, believe it or not, how you win games. So good to see the guys that are supposed to do what, in a big spot like that, he's able to do it. So congrats to him and the Twins. Finally, maybe that's the clouds are starting to part on that slump.
You love our metaphors, whether they're always right or always wrong. But, Correa was like the prom king, and he was using us for a while to get the big payday. And then there was two other much more prettier and more popular girls out there. And then he met their parents, and they were like, no, like, you can like them, but no. So then he has to kind of come back crawling to us. But I don't care. Carlos Correa wanted to use this as a pawn from the get-go. Whatever, he gets his payday. Now he's delivering clutch at-bats. His presence in the postseason alone speaks for itself. I don't care how it happens. And I know people boo him everywhere they go because of Trash Can Bountygate for his alleged role in that. But I'm a Carlos Correa fan, so more C4 in this lineup all the time. Speaking of offense, Ryan Jeffers, another huge day. He's been slumping lately. I caught up with him yesterday, Age, and kind of a fired up Ryan Jeffers. Like, not angry, definitely leaning maybe a little bit towards frustrated, because the last 2 weeks he said pitchers have been pitching him in ways that he's not trying to get down on himself, but like, I'm not getting any pitches to hit is kind of what the summary of this conversation was. And I'm having a tough time because the ones I am getting, I'm either screaming at someone, like a screaming line drive at someone, or I'm just missing it for a big hit. Well, today, doesn't miss a changeup. He absolutely punishes that first one for a home run. And then on his second home run, he punishes a fastball that's up in the zone. So that patience, that virtue, that trusting his process that Jeffers was talking to me about, telling me about yesterday, pays off for him. I mean, for the first 6 weeks, he was basically the Twins' best hitter. Went through a cold streak here in the last couple weeks, but nothing like a 2-homer day to wrap up a homestand, to kind of put you back in a good spot. And Ryan Jeffers will still, be a very important part of this lineup. Obviously, there's going to be times where players go through lulls and they're not hitting. But Ryan Jeffers, you'd like to think with a 2-home-run day, him sticking to his process, him getting the pitches that he now wants to hit and kind of identifying those. If you make a mistake to Jeffers, he's going to make you pay. And you saw that twice with balls over the seats at Target Field this afternoon.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the slump. In his last 15 games, he's had 49 ABs, batting a pretty unimpressive 163. So that first portion of the season, he's looking like the Twins' best hitter. You can rely on him. It's got to be maybe a small mental game of like, is he waiting for the shoe to drop? Is something along those lines where he's almost catching himself by surprise in a sense of, I knew I could hit the ball. We've been working on some stuff, but I didn't think it would translate this good. Like, we're getting these results that are exceeding expectations. And now that past 15 games, or 14, I guess, before today, it's like, wow, what's going on? Are we regressing? Are we going back to maybe what we were trying to fix all this time? But, he mentioned to you, they've been pitching him a little bit differently. He's also been close on some time, like a bit of unluckiness. A bit of him just being like, an inch below what the Mighty Ducks, where it's like, an inch to the left, and it's a
quarter
goal
of an inch the other way, right?
Quarter of an inch, though. You missed the entire net, though, Gordon. So same thing here. Quarter of an inch up, you're putting the ball over the fence quite a bit more. But at the same time, quarter inch down, you're looking like an idiot swinging at like a breaking ball that you should be crushing. So the fact that he's close, I think, speaks a lot of a lot to just the work that he has put in. So today, hopefully that's a get back on the horse, take another couple of laps, because it's such a long season. You're going to have ups and downs as a player, especially for what we saw right off the get-go from this guy, Ryan Jeffers. This was maybe not as severely expected, like how big of a drop-off it was, but, just get back to a level where you feel comfortable. We don't need you to be an MVP. We don't need you to, win the Silver Slugger and lead the league in home runs, RBIs, all this. Just move the order along. What the square dancing, the line dancing.
I didn't square dance. I didn't line dance. I don't know what. I don't know where you're going with this one. I'll be completely honest.
It's it's the rotating partners. You know what I mean? It's like can I step in? Can I step out? You want to step in, do a couple verses, couple beats, and then you want to get out. You're not stepping on anybody's feet. You're not going to get 2 left feet out there. You're keeping the dance going. Everybody's getting involved. Do the polka if you have to. Do a salsa if you have to. Just make sure you get in, get out, and you contribute in some way. And we saw that today from Ryan Jeffers. He did a little bit more than just contribute. He pretty much led the line.
Yeah, I'm more of the wedding dancer where the more drinks I have, the more buttons that come off my shirt. Like that, it just slowly, like Enrique Iglesias, like there's just maybe 1 button above my sternum. Like at that point, by like the time last call is rolling around at the wedding, I'm not that coordinated, but I will have an absolute blast on a dance floor. So I appreciated your effort there as trying to explain. I think Chris Paddock could probably tell me like what line dancing is. The dude's like an actual sheriff, so I'm sure that's probably good. It's a good question for him next time. Do you line dance? I'm sure that's a great ice-breaking question to Major League Baseball player. Hey, I noticed something really interesting today. And by the way, hit the like button, subscribe button on Extra Innings. We are just about to 3,000 subs, so thank you very much. Hit the like button, subscribe button if you've enjoyed this content. Thank you. And if you're new to the content, you want daily Minnesota Twins content or at least close to it, this is the Score North Twins Show. Expect extra innings content from the majority of home games, select road games. Trevor Plouffe joins every Tuesday. You can find Mackie and Judd on here too on the Score North Twins Show as well. So interesting, Willi Castro spent some time at second base today defensively, which I found a little interesting. Now, it was because they, again, made some pinch hitting opportunities. They had to put everyone in the field appropriately. But Willi hasn't spent much time at second base since arriving with the Twins. He played in like 108 games at second with the Detroit Tigers. Last year did not spend a lot of time, just 10 games, 43 innings spent total at second base for the Twins since last. Now, Willi can play just about everywhere. He can play short, he can play center, he can play third, he can play left. He's a great utility man. Hasn't spent much time at second base, but I found it interesting that if Kyle Farmer got the start today and you didn't want at the time pinch hit for Edouard Julien, and instead you'd then now Julien did take the 9th for defensive responsibilities, but regardless, stick with me here. Willi Castro ends up getting some time at second. I do wonder if that means Julien could be the odd man out here by the time Royce Lewis is activated. Again, I don't think the Lewis activation happens tonight or tomorrow. Certainly could be wrong. He did play in his 4th game. He went 0 for 3 today for the St. Paul Saints. I think he still will spend some time in New York before the Twins will head to that exact state by Sunday night. But I do start to wonder if maybe it is Edouard Julien, who we've speculated on could be the odd guy out that has struggled a little bit, because creating this roster spot for Royce Lewis is going to be difficult, whether it's Edouard Julien or someone else. But with Julien having options, and if an injury doesn't force their hand, which I always hear like, well, that's how it always happens. And of course, I'm well aware of that. But guess what? As of today, there's been no injury. So what do you want to do? I think Edouard Julien actually could be the odd man out here, if Royce Lewis does come back.
I don't think that's as shocking as maybe some people might think it is, because there's a handful of guys that I think that you're willing to like force him into the lineup. Mm-hmm. Royce Lewis is absolutely in that handful, right?
Yep.
Like if this was like, there's no question about that. If you think that's a a diabolical statement, let's have a serious conversation. But you're going to make somebody the odd man out there. Second base in the infield, I would say that's like the spot. Like in terms of you can stick a defensive liability in left field,
right? I know what you mean? Yeah,
you can do it. Second base, this might sound weird, I think is the spot, because shortstop, you're going to face probably more, I guess it's not like it used to be, but you used to face like more righties where it's like hot corner, third base. You need a quick, strong arm, like a quick reflex, strong arm, a guy who can just cover, like a Nolan Arenado, a Manny Machado. Those guys, they're great over there. Shortstop, I mean, you've had some amazing defensive guys where it's like, okay, the defensive probably the ability can outshine the batting if you needed to, and that's fine. Second base is kind of the other way around because, like, look at who the Twins are going to go up against here in a couple days. Houston Astros. Jose Altuve is not he's not going to get praised in the long term for his defensive ability. Sure, he's made a couple flashy plays in his career, but it's been a long career. That's a guy who's a good contact hitter. He's got some pop at times, especially with that kind of Mickey Mouse left field wall that they have down in Houston. Oh. It's incredible that that's allowed, but it's a spot where you could probably put a guy like Willi Castro because you don't need to necessarily, like to your point, he doesn't have that many reps at the position. He could probably learn it though just fine. A utility guy like him, he's open to reworking his game, hitting the books, looking at film, how to approach certain situations defensively. But his bat has been a little more sound, a little more reliable, a little bit more of a welcomed hug than Eddie Julien's has been so far this season. I wish we saw the Eddie Julien at his peak that we saw, I want to say, what, 2 seasons ago now? A season ago now? If my memory serves me right. Like, if it was that Eddie Julien, completely different conversation. But right now, Willi Castro is the guy that I think you, me, a lot of Twins fans, and probably Rocco Baldelli wants on that lineup card. So Eddie Julien is probably, unless he changes something around drastically in the next week, heading to that odd man out. He's looking in. So unfortunate for him.
Yeah, his approach on off-speed pitching has started to catch up on him. That's what happens when you have really a successful rookie year like he did last year, and he's always been a good fastball hunter. But now when there's an whole offseason of how to approach him and how to get him out, and that's off-speed pitching, and especially off-speed pitching at the outside of the zone for him, he has not been able to make an adjustment. That's why he takes strike 3. It's not because he thinks it's a ball. He doesn't have the ability to drive that pitch like he does a fastball. And to me, that's something you got to figure out to be a complete hitter. And unfortunately, if that's the case, you probably do need to spend some time in AAA. This is what happens, too. Like, rookies, Matt Wallner obviously got through a rough stretch here, and he's still kind of going through it with the Saints. Edouard Julien could be next. Alex Kirilloff, Trevor Larnach have had highs and lows this year. You don't just come up and the guys that do come up and dominate Major League pitching right away and never face adversity, like, it just doesn't happen. So I do think Edouard Julien could be that guy. He might be the odd man out when Royce Lewis does return.
But to say that's not like we're not writing him off completely.
Oh, no,
we're not saying he's a lost cause. The guy's 25 years old. In baseball, you might as well be 12 at that point. You know, you're so green. I don't expect you to have like meaningful at bats and be a day-to-day guy until you're like 28. Like, that's when I really expect, like, now you're hitting your stride because you get drafted when you're 18, 19, 20. Maybe you can get redrafted, so it's a little bit later. You go down to the minors for 5-6 years, it seems like at times, and then you finally come up and it's like, okay, the guy up in Rochester, Minnesota, he forgot all about you, even though he was pumped to hear your name when he got drafted a few years ago. So Eddie Julien, this is not this shouldn't be like a setback or anything. Just take it as it's a learning opportunity. You have a weakness in your game. It's pretty exploitable right now by opposing pitchers. You need to work that out. If you go down to AAA, you work it out. You get at bats against that lower competition. You have the time to really focus on your game instead of, you know, hey, it's a big spot here coming up against the Houston Astros. Then you go to the Yankees. Then you got a tough matchup with this Pittsburgh Pirates team. This is where you have to just take it in stride and not get down on yourself. So Eddie Julien, I mean, don't. It's frustrating because I think we've seen what he can do, but it's just not enough right now. Willi Castro is probably the guy to go with.
Hit the like button, hit subscribe button. This is Score North Extra Innings. You can expect content on the Score North Twins show from every Twins home game from the extra innings standpoint. You can expect select road games. If anything breaks on Royce Lewis, I'll probably jump on at some point, potentially this weekend, to discuss that. Twins in Houston for 3. They are off on Monday before playing the Yankees for 3 more. Then I believe a large homestand, I think, coming up right after that for the Twins. There's going to be a big one, I know, coming up in June for them. They're in Pittsburgh before coming back for that. So, yeah, they'll actually they're going to be 3 for Houston, 3 for New York, 3 for Pittsburgh, and then I believe their largest home stand to date, They'll have 3 against the Rockies starting on June 10th, and they'll be home through the 20th. So, yeah, big-time homestand coming up. So hit the like button, hit subscribe button. Appreciate everyone listening and liking this Twin Show content. I appreciate it especially. We'll be back at you later this week.